Hi everyone, welcome back to the lecture series by Professor Anuradha Jain. Today in this presentation we are going to discuss about monetary policy. Monetary policy is the policy of the central bank of any country to control and regulate the demand for money and supply for money to achieve the targets desired by the policymakers. It is one of the most important tool in the hands of the policymakers to control the economic activities of the country. Today in this presentation, we are going to discuss about what monetary policy is, what are the objectives of monetary policy, what are the instruments in the hands of the policy, and how through changes in these different instruments, monetary policy try to achieve the desired target variables in the economy. So let's come and discuss the concept in detail. Let us first discuss what monetary policy is all about. It is the policy undertaken by monetary authorities, generally the central bank, like in case of India, Reserve Bank of India, to control and regulate the demand for and supply of money with the public and the flow of credit with a view to achieving predetermined macroeconomic goals. So, macroeconomic goals are hereby the objectives of monetary policy, and these objectives are like to achieve economic growth, reducing unemployment, price stability, foreign exchange stability, balance of payment equilibrium, etc. The macroeconomic goals are determined on the basis of economic needs of the country. Once macroeconomic goals are determined, monetary authorities decide accordingly whether to adopt contractionary policy or expansionary policy. Then the next step is to make the choice of instruments that can effectively increase or decrease money supply with the public. As far as the scope of monetary policy is concerned, it spans the entire area of economic transactions where money is involved and where monetary authorities can influence economic variables in the economy. The scope of monetary policy depends on mainly two factors. First is like the level of monetization of the economy. If the economy is fully monetized, then the scope of monetary policy encompasses the entire economic activities. In that case, monetary policy works by changing the supply of and demand for money and the general price level. So, it is therefore capable of affecting all economic activities like production, consumption, savings, and investment. The monetary policy can influence all major macroeconomic variables like gross domestic product, savings and investment, employment, the general price level, foreign trade, balance of payment, etc. The second factor where the scope of monetary policy depends is the level of development of financial markets, which is very important because it depends on how developed and integrated is the capital market. Some instruments of monetary policy like bank rate or cash reserve ratio work through the capital market. Where capital market is fairly developed, monetary policy affects the level of economic activities through the changes in the capital market. Now it works very effectively in an economy with a fully developed financial market. In this slide, we will be discussing about the instruments of monetary policy. Instruments are also known as weapons of monetary control. These are the weapons through which monetary policy bring changes in the economic variables in the economy. The instruments are generally categorized into two categories. First is general credit control measures or quantitative credit control. These methods are normally known as traditional measures of monetary control. This includes like bank rate policy, cash reserve ratio, open market operations, statutory liquidity ratio. The another category is selective credit control, which includes like credit rationing, margin requirement, moral suasion, and direct control. Selective credit control measures are used by the central bank when the effects of general credit control measures are not desirable or are not effective. The general credit control methods of monetary control affect, when they are effective, the entire credit market in the same direction. They lead either to expansion or to contraction of the total credit as intended by the monetary authorities. We will discuss all this one by one in the preceding slides. Bank rate is the rate at which central bank lends money to the commercial bank and rediscount the bills of exchange presented by the commercial bank. RBI rediscounts only the government securities, approved bills, and the first class bills of exchange. When commercial banks are faced with shortage of cash reserves, they can approach to the central bank, and central bank, after rediscounting the bills of exchange, provide loan to the commercial bank. As far as the origin of bank rate policy is concerned, it was first adopted by the Bank of England in 1839. It was the only and the most widely used weapon of credit control until the open market operation was started. It was used in 1922 in the US, emerged as a more powerful instrument of monetary control. And in India, the RBI has been using the bank rate as monetary control measure, though infrequently, since its inception in 1935. RBI make changes in the bank rate as per the economic conditions of the economy. Like suppose, for example, if there is inflation in the economy, now to control inflation, RBI needs to control money supply in the economy, and they should follow the contractionary monetary policy. And in that case, RBI increases the bank rate. Now, if you can see in this chain that if bank rate increases, that leads to increase in the rate of interest charged by the commercial bank. And if rate of interest increases, there are two factors that affect together. One is that it will lead to decrease in the demand for loans, and the other is that savings also increases if there is increase in the interest rate, and both of them will lead to decrease in the money supply in the economy. Now, if money supply decreases, then purchasing power of people decreases, which will lead to decrease in the demand, and if demand goes down, prices also goes down, and so as like we can control the inflation. So as at present, the bank rate in India is 4.65%, and exactly reverse happens when central bank cut down the bank rate. The next instrument in the hands of monetary policy is the cash reserve ratio. Cash reserve ratio is the percentage of total bank deposits which commercial banks are supposed to keep in the form of cash reserves with the central bank. The objective of cash reserve is to prevent shortage of cash for meeting the cash demand by the depositors. And cash reserve ratio depends normally on the bank's experience regarding the cash demand by the depositors. The CRR has proved to be a very handy tool for the central bank to control money supply. The central bank enjoys the legal power to change the cash reserve ratio of the bank. It means that as and when central bank feels that they should change the cash reserve ratio, they have all the rights to change it. And by changing the CRR, the central bank can change the money supply overnight. So when economic condition demand a contractionary monetary policy, the central bank raises the CRR, and when economic condition demand expansionary monetary policy, the central bank cut down the CRR. So here you can see the chain regarding the cash reserve ratio Like if RBI increases the cash reserve ratio, then it directly reduces the loanable fund with the commercial banks. And if loanable fund goes down, then the loan amount also goes down, which leads to decrease in the money supply in the economy. And if money supply goes down, the purchasing power goes down, and which reduces the demand, and in return the prices goes down. So normally at the time of inflation, when central bank is supposed to control prices, they adopt the contractionary monetary policy by increasing the CRR rate. So at present in India, the CRR rate is 3%. The open market operation is the sale and purchase of government securities and treasury bills by the central bank of the country. Now when central bank decides to pump money into circulation, it buy back the government securities, bills, bonds, etc. And when it decides to reduce the money in circulation, it sells the government bonds and securities. The open market operation is the most powerful and widely used tool of monetary policy, and it was first used by US Federal Reserve System in 1922. But open market operation do not work effectively if the country is underdeveloped and where banking system is not well developed and security markets are not interdependent. Open market operations have a limited effectiveness over there. The next instrument in the hands of monetary policy under quantitative category is statutory liquidity ratio. Every bank must have some specified percentage of their net demand and time liabilities in terms of cash, gold, or other liquid assets by the day's end. It is known as statutory liquidity ratio. Just like CRR, cash reserve ratio, at the time of contractionary monetary policy, Reserve Bank increases the SLR, and at the time of expansionary monetary policy, they decreases the SLR. Like when there is inflation in the economy, and if RBI need to control prices, they need to adopt the contractionary monetary policy. So in that case, they will increase the SLR rate. And increasing the SLR rate means directly reducing the loanable fund, which leads to decrease in the loan amount, and in turn decreasing the money supply. And if money supply goes down, the purchasing power goes down, and if purchasing power goes down, it means that the demand tends to go down, and if demand reduces, then prices goes down. So this is how the monetary policy works at the time of inflation, and exactly the reverse happens when they want to adopt the expansionary monetary policy. At present, the SLR rate in India is 18%. Let us discuss about selective credit control measures. Selective credit control measures are used by the central banks when the effect of general credit control measures are not desirable or are not effective. But the quantitative credit control methods, when they are effective, the entire credit market moves in the same direction, or they just try to control the quantity of the credit control and may have the uniform impact on all the sectors of the economy. But this may not be always desirable or intended by the policymakers. The monetary authorities are often required to take policy actions like for rationing of credit for different sectors of the economy, or diverting the flow of credit from non-priority sector to the priority sector, or sometimes like curbing speculative tendency based on the availability of bank credit. So these objectives of credit control are not well served by quantitative methods of credit control. So therefore, in that situation, monetary policy go for selective credit control measures. So there are different types of selective credit control. Like first is credit rationing. So when there is shortage of institutional credit available for the business sector, the highly developed and financially strong sector and industry capture the lion's shares in the total institutional credit. And as a result, what happens is that priority sector or essential industries are deprived of necessary funds or credits, while the bank credit goes to the non priority sector. So, in order to curb this tendency, the central bank resorts to credit rationing measures. So, generally, there are two methods adopted for credit rationing. First is they can impose the upper limit on the credit available to the developed industries and large scale firms, and secondly, they may charge higher or progressive interest rate on bank loans beyond a certain limit. So this is done with a view to making bank credit available to the essential and the priority sectors. Second selective credit control method is like change in the lending margin rate or the margin requirement. Now always bank advance money against some property or land, building, jewelry, share or stock of goods and so on. So the bank provides loans only up to a certain percentage of the value of the mortgaged property. And the gap between the value of mortgaged property and amount advanced by the bank is called lending margin. For example, if the mortgage property market value is suppose 10 lakhs and the amount advanced by the bank is suppose 8 lakhs. So therefore the lending margin here is the 20%. Central bank is empowered to increase the lending margin with a view to decrease the bank credit. And this method was used for the first time by the RBI in 1949 with the objective of controlling speculative activity in the stock market. And since 1956, the RBI has made an extensive use of this method with a view to prevent speculation in the agricultural products in India. Next method is moral suasion. The moral suasion is a method of persuading and convincing the commercial bank to advance credit only in the accordance with the directives of the central bank in the overall economic interest of the country. So under this method, central bank just advise the commercial bank to curb the loan amount given to the different sectors in the economy, and under this method the central bank writes letter to and hold meetings with the banks on money and credit matters. The last method in this category is direct control. So now when all other methods prove ineffective, the monetary authorities resort to direct control measures with clear directive to carry out their lending activity in a specified manner. So there are, however, rare instances of use of such direct control measures. Monetary policy is one of the most important policy tools in the hands of the policymakers to control the different variables and economic activities of the economy. But it also has certain limitations. The first and most important limitation in effective working of monetary policy is the time lag. That is the time taken in chalking out the policy action, its implementation and response time. The time lag is divided into two parts, like inside lag or preparatory lag and outside lag or the response lag. The inside lag refers to the time lost in identifying the nature of the problem or identifying the source of the problem, assessing the magnitude of the problem, or choice of the appropriate policy action or implementation of the policy. So in other words, we can say that inside lag means that it's a problem of the policy makers or the authorities of the system. But the outside lag refers to the time taken by the households and the firms to react to the policy action taken by monetary authorities. Another problem of monetary policy or limitation of monetary policy is the formulation of an appropriate monetary policy. Because formulation of any policy requires a proper magnitude of the problem, like recession or inflation, is correctly assessed, as it helps in determining the dose of the medicine. So now what is more important is to forecast the effects of monetary actions. Because of the low degree of reliability of forecasting, prediction of the outcome of the policy action and hence formulation of an appropriate monetary policy has remained an extremely difficult task. So this point has been adequately evidenced in unpredictability of recession in the US economy and inflation in India both in 2008. Another problem or limitation of monetary policy is the structural change in the financial system due to rapid growth of non-banking financial intermediaries, which has reduced the scope of the effectiveness of monetary policy. The effectiveness of monetary policy in the less developed countries is reduced considerably because of the underdeveloped character of their money and capital markets. Because the money and capital markets are fragmented, while effective working of monetary policy requires a fairly developed money market, and that money market and the sub-markets of the capital market are interactive and work interdependently. Yeah, after seeing this presentation, I'm sure you would have understood what monetary policy is and how it functions. Now my question here is, as you have seen that Governor of Reserve Bank of India, Mr. Shakti Kanta Das, took a stand and decreased the repo rate and reverse repo rate on 27th March, and further there was a second time decrease in the reverse repo rate. Now what will be the impact of these changes in the repo rate and reverse repo rate, how it will work, and what changes they are going to bring on the economic activities of the economy during this lockdown period due to COVID-19. So please do write to me your views on this, and thank you so much for your patient hearing, and we'll meet again in the next lecture.